What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode number 12 of Highly Debatable, the NBL Network's live video debate show. We appreciate each and every one of you tuning in. I'm OSU. I'm hanging out with my man, Sonny Weaver. Sonny, it is, this is one of the most exciting times here, not only in the NBL, but on the network. We have non-stop playoff action coming up. We got some fun announcements. We're getting to that Super Bowl time, and if you're a fan of the NFC, that's already done. That's locked up. We know who's going to be in the playoffs. If you're a fan of the AFC, well, you better pay attention the next 2 weeks here on NBL Live because it is still on, it's still up for grabs. Anybody can make it at this point, except for the Bengals. They can't make it, sorry.
Sorry, Fry, you're out. No chance. Mathematically eliminated about 8 weeks ago. No, the AFC is in for a dogfight. There's going to be a lot going on there, but, you know, we'll see how this goes. I'm excited about the next 2 weeks. I don't know about you. I think tonight's going to be a big game. And I think later this week there may be another big one. I'm not sure.
It's a fun time here in the NBL. Let's take a look at that scorecard. Sonny, I'm really hoping that you get back to your winning ways because this is just becoming a little too easy. I think everybody in the chat is just a big fan of the bigger. They go for bigger over bolder right now. It's been a couple weeks since you've won one. Any message to your fan out there?
Well, to my fan, you're kind of slacking out there. You're supposed to have multiple accounts running. I get that, pricey.
He's a big fan of you. He loves you.
We need some help, Pricey. Come on, buddy. Get your grandma.
Well, again, folks, if it's your first time joining us, be sure to post in the chat at the end of the episode after round 3, hashtag OSU wins or hashtag Sonny wins for who you thought won this episode of Highly Debatable. If you're watching this in our archives on YouTube, you can just post it right there in the comments. We tally those votes too. But Sonny, let's get to it. We got some great topics to talk about today. Let's get to round 1. And in round 1, let's talk about Melvin Gordon, you're going to see on NBL Live tonight, 8 o'clock Eastern Time, after this episode of Highly Debatable. The Chargers taking on the New England Patriots. First of all, the Los Angeles Chargers still undefeated. They're still sitting there at 14-0, 2 games left to finish off the perfect season. And Melvin Gordon, look at his jump from season 28 to 29, not only being healthy, but 1,905 yards. That yards per attempt, 8.3 is absolutely bonkers, up almost 3 full yards from last season, and 24 touchdowns. My question for you, Sonny, is Melvin Gordon a lock for MVP at this point? He plays on an undefeated team. He plays on a team that is right now, I think most people would consider the Super Bowl favorite. Does that make him a lock for MVP?
Well, first off, shout out to Bleacher Report for the graphic. I see you in there, JY. We were going to get there. Don't freak out.
We got to get through. We got to introduce the topic, then we'll give the shout out. Settle down.
It won't be the first Bleacher Report graphic you see in here tonight. But anyways, yeah, Melvin Gordon. Interesting conversation I had earlier today with my good man, Hop, who does not believe that Melvin Gordon is an MVP candidate because, as I quote, Dalvin Cook didn't win. But let me tell you something, Hop. The reason Melvin Gordon is a lock to win the MVP is not only he's setting the NBL rushing record, as he does at each game from here on out, and he's going to break 2,000. He's only 2 touchdowns away from tying the NBL touchdown rushing record. He is the most prolific runner we have ever seen in NBL, and at this point, leading the way on an undefeated team. I don't think it's even debatable. In fact, my question is, OSU, how much do you agree with me?
I think Melvin Gordon is the best player in the league. I think Melvin Gordon plays in the best team in the league. I think Melvin Gordon, we saw last year what this Chargers team was when Melvin Gordon got hurt. So I think absolutely Melvin Gordon is probably a lock at this point. But I'm going to give you another name, Sonny, I'm going to give you the player who I think would no doubt win the MVP if Melvin Gordon wasn't doing what he was doing. I am so impressed, and we saw him on NBL Live with Jack Gerberry out. You bring up Hop. Jack Gerberry out in Minnesota has been absolutely fantastic this season. He has led this offense, the #1 scoring offense. They're the #4 passing offense in a division with the Detroit Lions. And let's not forget something that I think a lot of people are overlooking with the Minnesota Vikings. And it's why I think they're probably one of the most dangerous teams in the playoffs. This Vikings team started out the season 0-3. They lost their first 3 games. Everybody went, what's the problem in Minnesota? Fun fact, they haven't dropped a game since then. A lot of that's because of Jack Gerberry. 32 touchdowns, only 12 interceptions, a quarterback rating of 128.7. We talk about Matt Stafford all the time. We talk about Ben Roethlisberger all the time. Jack Gerberry has really this season put himself in the conversation as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the NBL. It's that 73% completion percentage. He's almost at 4,000 yards. This team, I know they have Dalvin Cook, but he's been hurt. They've sort of had a rotation of running backs in there. At 128.7, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, and by the way, a game, it's very hard to keep a positive touchdown to interception ratio. If Melvin Gordon wasn't in this race, I think Jack Gerberry runs away with this one, especially leading them to this 12-game win streak they're on.
Well, here's my problem with that. When we start talking about MVP caliber quarterbacks, and that's the key here, quarterbacks are held to a different standard. You're talking about a pedigree of things like Matthew Stafford. Let's talk about Matthew Stafford's 5,000-yard season, right? 32 touchdowns, 19 interceptions, 72%. Or we can talk about Ben Roethlisberger. You know, we've seen Big Ben have some amazing seasons, 4,600 yards for Big Ben just 2 seasons ago, 43 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Those are elite quarterback numbers. Gerberry is having a good year in a pretty down year across the board. There were some injuries to Ben. There were some injuries to Stafford. But there's no doubt in my mind if both those guys are here, we're really not even talking about Jack Gerberry as being anything but the 3rd best quarterback in the league. To me, it's Melvin Gordon, and it's not even close. We have never seen as prolific a runner as Melvin Gordon. Not even close. I can point to the record books and say, in the history of NBL, no one's touched Melvin Gordon.
Yeah, and I think that this gets into that interesting discussion of, is most valuable the best, or is it the most valuable to the team? Because I think if it was most valuable to the team, the person who I'd go to is Matt Stafford, because we saw what this Lions team was without Matt Stafford and Brad Kayat.
Don't start sucking.
I'm just saying, if it's most valuable, here's the thing about Jack Gerberry. Here's why I'm so impressed with the Vikings. And I've seen these Steelers teams be so good with Ben Roethlisberger. I've seen these Lions teams be very good with Matt Stafford. After your game with the Minnesota Vikings, what week was that? Week 7, which the Vikings won by 6 points. Since then, they have won by no less than 15 every game, and it's not like they're playing slouches. They beat those Detroit Lions with what you say is a top 2 quarterback without him, but they beat them 41-10. They beat the Atlanta Falcons, a very talented team, 45-7. They ran through some good teams. The Green Bay Packers, they beat 23-6. This team is running over teams in the late of the season. They're hot, and Jack Gerberry is a big reason for that. And we've seen him on NBL Live. That's why I think if Melvin Gordon wasn't in it, it'd be Jack Gerberry because of what he's been able to do and how valuable he's been in this passing attack for the Minnesota Vikings.
But Melvin Gordon is.
Yes.
And it's a lot.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon. Yeah, Melvin Gordon. Unless he fumbles the ball 5 times today, I still think even if a 5-fumble game happens, don't you think he still wins MVP?
I don't even think you can even do anything. Maybe if Jack Gerberry throws for 1,000 yards, we'll give it.
Sure. Well, let's get to round 2. This should be a fun topic. I feel like that road sign is over my house. I'm not gonna lie. I'm feeling a little sad. The question, it's a very simple question. We've had a long season here in the NBL. As it's winding down, the question is, who has had the most disappointing season? Whether it was high expectations. Whatever it was, whatever your criteria is, who's that team that you think is the most disappointing in the NBL this season? I'll go first on this one, and I'm going to give an unorthodox answer. You like to criticize me for taking the easier answer. I like to say I take the right answer. But I'm going to go most disappointing season, and this is going to be a team that I think would be considered one of the biggest surprises about 5 weeks ago. I'm going to go with the San Francisco 49ers. This team had the division. Had the division in their grasp, was just ready to run away with it. Undefeated through 10 games. 10 games? 9 games? Were they 9-0? 10-0? I don't know. They were undefeated a lot. And they looked in an NFC West that is one of the weaker divisions. They looked like they were primed to take that division. And then we've seen what happened at the end of the season. They're now 10-5. They were undefeated. They were 9-0. They are now 10-5, and they're not going to win the division. They're still going to get in the playoffs. And again, it's a great season for San Francisco. And we've talked about how good San Francisco is at drafting players and the talent they have at wide receiver, and the talent that they have at quarterback, and the defense, young and aggressive. But this San Francisco team at week 9, we were going, is this one of the biggest surprises of all time. Is this one of the best teams in the NBL? And since then, they have fallen back to earth so hard. I think the 49ers are going to be a first-round exit because they just couldn't find a way to win the division. And again, the West isn't as bad as the NFC East was this year, but it was a division that was theirs for the taking. So I'm going to go them as most disappointing because of where they were in Week 9.
You know, I considered throwing the 49ers out there, but it's hard to call the season a disappointment when they've come so far. I mean, I get the high expectations and you're on a roll.
By the way, I've got another one, but I'll wait till you give yours.
Yeah, shut up. But, you know, I think it's got to be the Atlanta Falcons. 11-5 last year, sitting at 4-11 now. They should be talking about winning divisions, not top 5 draft picks, which they're on the verge of getting. One of the best rosters in all of NBL, and here you are. You've got one division win. You're basically just fledgling at the bottom of the standings. What is going on in Atlanta? This was out of the box, one of the best rosters in all of NBL, and here we go. What is going on? And and as you just point out, the Falcons don't have their first-round pick. So we can't even call them tanking. They're not tanking.
Well, they're tanking for the Denver Broncos. They're giving them that high pick in the. I mean, if the Denver Broncos want to look at somebody who is tanking, take a look at that Atlanta Falcons team. That team is very talented. You should learn from them, DB. Just look at the Falcons. Here's all I'm saying. But here's the Falcons absolutely disappointing. It's the epitome of a team that got started bad, 0-4 to start the season, and nothing has gone right. I'm going to throw out another team here. Somebody who's flown under the radar. We don't talk about the AFC East a whole lot. How about the Buffalo Bills winning that division last year and really was a hot team at the end of the season, was able to hold off the New York Jets and win that division. And this season, let's be clear, they came in. I'm looking at their stats right now. They're the number 3 pass defense, the number 5 yardage defense. They do such a good job on the defensive side of the ball. They don't have a quarterback. They don't have a running back. They can't find a way to move the ball down the field. And this was a team who's playing in a division who's frankly not very good. I don't really know what to make of this New England Patriots team. I want to like them. Then they lay some goose eggs against teams that you shouldn't. So I'm not really sure what to make of them. But how about the Buffalo Bills? Probably one of the division winners that you go, boy, in 1 year, look at how far they've fallen. And I don't think they're particularly close to getting back to competing.
I can't tell if you're debating me or debating yourself because you followed every answer up with another answer. So I think you're playing the field here, trying to get as many,
hey,
shots.
Throw out another one.
Shot.
Yeah, I said I was throwing out. I said I'd wait till you. I gave you time to come up with another one. I just think the Bills also are incredibly disappointing because I was looking at the division banners and you see Homer's smiling face and I'm like, oh, right, he did win the division and now he's in 3rd in that division. And I don't think the Miami Dolphins are that much worse than the Buffalo Bills.
I would agree with that. FaceTime for old Homer Hanky out there.
Play it in the chat. I feel bad. Play it. Just don't go 5 more in the division and not make the playoffs. How about those Bucks? That's rough. That is rough. I'm telling you though, those Bucks are close. But let's stop talking about disappointments. Let's talk about one of the best players and one of the best teams in round 3. Oh, round 3. A very interesting topic, Sonny. I know you're very passionate about this team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, your former foe in the AFC North. I don't want to say a disappointing season. I think they're still going to win that division. And they're going to, if they're in the playoffs, you can't count them out. But the question I have for you, Sonny, is the Pittsburgh Steelers window closed? We've seen Ben Roethlisberger deal with some injuries. We've seen some injuries on both sides of the ball. We've seen them drop 2 games to the Cleveland Browns. After what I assume the Browns did was roll in a whole field of 4-leaf clovers, drink some leprechaun's blood, and cut off a couple rabbits' feet to keep in their pockets, but still lost 2 games to them. Is Pittsburgh's window closed, or is this team still a perennial contender?
Well, I think they're still a contender, but I worry that at this point, with the age of their roster, they're going to be spinning their wheels a little bit. You've got $40 million tied up in 3 players, Big Ben, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell. Rumor has it that Ben and AB may be on the out. So the question then becomes, who are you going to bring in to replace them? You could go to the draft and find a quarterback, not a deep draft. But you go out to free agency. We'll see who ends up there. But to me, what is interesting is the Pittsburgh Steelers ownership and insistency on getting a cornerback. Artie Burns is not the lockdown corner they need him to be. You've got Kevin Johnson on the other side of him. And so that front seven, a very, very productive front seven, and you've obviously got a all-pro safety in the back. The cornerbacks, though, they're really struggling to help Pittsburgh out. So don't be surprised if you see some turnover on the offensive side this coming offseason to maybe pay for some improvements on the back. I don't think the window is closed, but I think it could be closing with the aging of this roster if they don't do something soon to try to maintain that. Cleveland is not far behind, and actually Baltimore had a pretty good season themselves.
Yeah, Baltimore, real sneaky team in that AFC North. I don't think their window is closed at all, and here's why. First of all, when you have a guy like Jawar Forney at safety, I mean, he is a difference maker in the back of that defense. And so even we've seen those cornerbacks maybe not playing as well as they have been, but Jawar Forney makes up for them by jumping a lot of those routes. He's so good at the back of that defense. The biggest reason I think Pittsburgh's window is not closed, and it is with the caveat of, they sort of have to do the right thing, as with everybody. This team is going to have, if they do cut AB, if they do cut Le'Veon Bell, if they're on the way out, they're going to have a plethora of cap space. And they have a lot of young, great players. I like Javier Howard at wide receiver. The biggest question for Pittsburgh is what do they do at quarterback after Big Ben? But I think with the money they're going to have in free agency, they do a lot of moves in the draft. They're one of the underrated drafters in the NBL. They like trading back, trading up. They move a lot in the draft. You could see them move up for a quarterback. This quarterback draft, though, not particularly deep. So I think they're going to go after somebody in free agency. I just think with any quarterback that has, I don't want to say even a medium amount of talent. You're looking at anybody who's maybe a veteran who's in that 34, 35, 36 range. They come in and play. They've been playing with Big Ben. He's roughly 107 at this point. They're going to have so much cap space. They're going to go out and get a quarterback. They're going to improve that secondary. I think this team, their window's not closed, but with those two teams coming behind them, you're absolutely right, Sonny. The Browns and the Ravens, both young teams and both really impressive this season. Pittsburgh's got to have a big splashy free agency, I think, to make that window stay open. They got to put a prop up in that window.
Well, here's what I have to ask you right now. If you had to take one of the rosters right now, knowing that Ben's probably gone, knowing they may cut AB, who would you rather have? Not even Cleveland. Because this window is not just about winning AFC North titles, it's AFC and Super Bowl titles. Would you rather have the Chargers or the Pittsburgh Steelers roster?
I mean, again, without Ben, without AB, it's absolutely the Chargers. I do wonder if the Chargers have completely broken that voodoo that had everybody injured, because when that Chargers team is 9 deep on injured reserve, I don't know how much I want them. But, yeah, absolutely. Now, again, I don't know. I haven't looked too closely at the Chargers' cap space or their players that they're re-signing. My hope is that they're not signing anybody. My hope is that they just run a 53-player team of 62 overalls. But yeah, absolutely, it's the Chargers. Without Ben, without AB, I mean, again, I think even right now, I'll go as far as with Ben and AB right now, I'd still rather have the Chargers team because they're just a younger, faster version of this team. But with Javier Howard and the amount of cap space they're going to have and the way they've been able to find those sort of gems in the draft, I still just, every time I count out the Pittsburgh Steelers, they then go and make the Super Bowl. I mean, that's the problem.
Maybe they make it this year. We'll have
to see. They could still very well, they're in the lead of the division. They need some help from the Oakland Raiders to win that division, so I'd like to apologize to the Pittsburgh Steelers for not winning that division. But let's get to shoutouts here. Again, folks, we're at the end of round 3, so post who you think won this episode of Highly Debatable in the chat using hashtag OSUWins or hashtag SunnyWins. It's shoutout time here on Highly Debatable. Shoutouts. It's my favorite part of the show because it's when I get to see whether Sonny will be a nice guy and be generous or whether he'll be snarky and the one that we all know and love. I'm going to give a shout out to a team and an owner that my own co-host here said there was no chance of this team being good. And fun fact, they're pretty good. I'm going to give a shout out to Unisolated and the Jacksonville Jaguars because this team, and I'll give Sonny some credit for this, for lighting a little fire under him, but with the second place schedule, I believe Sonny's words was there's no way this team was getting anywhere. They're 10-5 right now, and on NBL Live, we haven't announced it, NBL Live Week 17, that one is for the division. It's going to be you and the Tennessee Titans against the Jacksonville Jaguars, but Unisolated, this was a guy, 3 wins a year. they have a nice season last season, but everybody went, is this the real deal? They had the weak schedule. Would they be able to repeat it? And they have, and they've done it without Daniel Shirley most of the year. So I am so impressed with what my own assistant network director, who beat me, so I'm not happy about that, but I'm so impressed with what they've been able to do in Jacksonville. So shout out to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Go ahead and beat Sunny tomorrow night.
Hey, that's a good one. The turnaround has been real in Jacksonville. Good for them. We'll see if they can keep it rolling. I'm going to go ahead and shout out my good friend Dark Brawlers.
DB!
We
tank!
Talked about it at one point. He was 6-2, super excited, calling out everybody and their brother, telling them that he was making the playoffs. And then we pointed out to him, DB, hey, buddy, you haven't beaten a team with a winning record yet. And now here we stand at 8-7, I believe.
Yep.
8-7. And guess what? He still hasn't beaten a team with a winning record. In fact, all the teams he played had winning records, and he lost to them.
Hey,
And so
do you know who he plays next week?
The
Los Angeles Chargers.
Record? Yeah. Hey, imagine that. Now, wouldn't that be funny if that's
the one? Yeah, there you go.
Hey, you know what? But you know what? DV, he keeps trying. He's making progress as well. You know, we talk about teams on the rise. He's done a good job out there. He's got to get over the hump. But just a shout out to my good friend there that still has not beaten a team with a winning record.
I love old DB because he's a younger guy, and he likes to sit there and go, everybody counted me out. Everybody counted me out. Look what I've done with those wins over the Dolphins and the Bengals and the Bills. Like, all right, bud, settle down. But I think he's in a place, I will say, playing in that division, he's in a place where you just got to get over that hump of beating the good teams, and he's got a great roster over there, and he's got some good picks this season. So those Broncos, look out for them. I'm just so mad I'm in the AFC West. I'm not going to lie. It makes me sad inside every day I get to look at that division and how good everybody is. But yeah, shout out to DB. Shout out to Shadow. Shout out to all of you for tuning in here on the NBL Network. We're going to take down the stream for just a quick second, switch everything over. Again, join us over on Twitch, twitch.tv/NBL Network. Subscribe over there. We're doing a ton of giveaways for everybody who subscribes on Twitch. Vote in the chat, or if you're watching here on YouTube in the archives, vote in the comments. Hashtag Oshi wins. Hashtag Sunny wins. We appreciate all of you tuning in for Highly Debatable Episode 12. We'll be right back on. OSU and Bomber on the call in about 5 minutes. I say 5 minutes, probably be closer to 10. But Chargers and Patriots, countdown to 2K for Melvin Gordon right here on the NBL Network.